genuine stories, empowering horse people. This is Horses, Hope, and Hustle.
It's impossible to fail if you keep showing up, and it doesn't matter what you do. Like if you show up every day, whether it's showing or cowboying or whatever, like even there are days when you feel like the smallest person on the world and that you can't do anything right. But if you show up the next day and you start regaining that confidence, it's in my mind, it's impossible to fail.
I think all those hard years of learning the lessons and figuring out how to make it work and doing all that stuff, I think we just figured out that you just keep doing the right thing, keep trying, that it all pays off in the end, or just as you go.
You can't build something that lasts by cutting corners. Today, Trevor and Kaylie Haught share how a decade of just showing up through fifth wheels and $12 rides built a program clients trust with everything. This is It's Impossible to Fail If You Keep Showing Up on Horses, Hope, and Hustle. Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Horses, Hope, and Hustle. I'm excited today to have Kaylie and Trevor Haught of Haught Horses and Livestock down in Scottsdale, Arizona. Thank you guys for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
That was cute. Well, do you guys want to go ahead and kind of introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what your program is like today?
So Trevor's the head trainer. Been training for 16, 17 years now, off and on. We're in Scottsdale, in the land of the horse trainers, and we mostly train cow horses, rope horses, and some 2-year-olds. That's about it. Long days.
We just wanted to be cowboys so bad that we ended up in the cow horse deal, and we found out here pretty quick that the cowboy life wasn't going to pay what we wanted it to, and so this is kind of the way to play cowboy every day and make a living that is more sustainable than making $1,500 a month and living in a cabin with holes in the walls and things like that. So
yeah, that's fair.
Kind of what we've tried to make this horse program as ranchy as we possibly could, to where we were actually using them and doing a job and not so maneuver focused. This is just kind of where we ended up. The cow horse was the closest to that. So that's the backbone of our deal. But
yeah. And in order to own your own cows, I feel like there's just so much more to it than just, in this day and age, buying a ranch and buying a bunch of cattle and stuff like that is scary and almost unattainable. So we decided to figure out how to make money while still doing what we like to do, and just start accumulating cattle as we go.
Yeah. So how long ago did you guys get into the cow horse?
About 7 years ago. And and I was maybe rubbing elbows with the cow horse guys. There was like Brad Barkmeyer and Corey Cushing, when they were all in the same facility. They were breaking in a lot of rope and steers, and so I would go over there and help them break in steers after they got done going down the fence, or they weren't any good to cut anymore. We'd break them all into rope and they'd send them back to tie yost. So that was like my first exposure to those horses, and I started to get some of those after those guys didn't want them anymore. They weren't good enough. They weren't going to show them. I got a handful of them to show, and we were helping a guy, Brad Randall, was shipping a bunch of cattle up at the Double O's, and I had a jag of horses that Corey had started that were really cool. And so like all these guys there that hadn't seen horses like that, I'm riding a bunch of 3-year-olds that were super broke, and they just assumed that I had trained those horses. And Brad's like, I think you should show a 3-year-old for me next year. So, well, I've never done it. And he's like, oh, that's not a big deal. You're in the level 1. It'll be easy. So then I end up with this 2-year-old, and I start trying to put these maneuvers together, and I kind of panicked. Like, how the heck am I going to do this? And that deadline totally changed my program, where I was pretty slow, and I went very slow to get to any kind of speed or something like that. All of a sudden I have a deadline that says I need to be able to do these things on this horse. And so I just got ate up with it, and I became a big fan of Nick Dowers, and I found a clinic and went to see him. And then I don't know, I've been up there 10, 12 times now, and it completely changed what our horse training looked like. Like I knew what the cow horse was. I had kind of worked at a couple shows on the cattle crew and stuff like that. But until somebody gave me a 2-year-old and said, go show it next year, I never knew what really went into it, I guess. So that was a crash course, I guess. Like, here you go, get after it, see what you can do. It was neat. I never even got to show the horse. Like right before the pre-futurity, I was at Doug Williams getting a lesson, and he got sore, and it took me out of ever really getting to show him. But I had that deadline, needed to do it, and then by then I was immersed in it, and I had more horses coming. It was a neat experience.
It changed the standard for our whole program, because we realized where we were slacking and how it could all be better. And I talked about that in our other podcasts on just how getting those nicer horses in and those clients, how it changed the
expectations totally different, like how they're cared for, how they're fed, the amount of riding that they get. They have to be fed differently and taken care of differently. And we are definitely way more ranchy than most of the guys that are showing cow horses. Like, we're not going to polo wrap them every time we pull them out of the stall. And like, we're not going to not go chase something down in the desert, given the opportunity. I think that stuff's so important. Then like my neighbors are so show horse oriented. It's just a different deal. But when we show up to the show, they can't be long haired and barked up. Like, they need to be taken care of in a different manner than what we used to, I guess.
Yeah.
So that had opened us up to the clients that we have now and the job that we have now and all that stuff. So it definitely leveled up everything, our whole life and our whole program in general.
Mm-hmm. So going back to the beginning, which I also want to give your podcast a shout out, because that's where I heard this story of your guys' story. Check out Cowboy Culture Podcast, right?
That's the one. I need to spend more time on it, but
you do. Because I listened to all of the episodes, so we need some more to listen to.
I can't even decide what it's about. You know, I can't decide if it's a history podcast or if it's a conversation podcast. But it rained, like when I started it had rained a bunch, and we didn't have a covered arena then. It's like, well, I had all this free time to make those handful of episodes, and then now we have a covered arena. There's never a rainy day to go make a podcast, so I need to make it more of a priority.
Yeah.
But
it takes a lot of time.
Priorities. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But what I really loved about your guys' episode is how genuine you were about where you got started and your whole journey. It wasn't just a highlight reel. And I really appreciated that. So I'd love to start at the beginning. Like, how did you guys grow up and how you met and when you first started training horses?
Go way back.
History lesson.
I think we both grew up pretty similar. I just grew up rodeoing, and my dad kept a handful of cows there at the house, and he was a butcher, and so we kept calves around for me to rope and some steers around to butcher and eat, and he took care of a place that had some cows, and so we did a little bit of that, but not to the extent that I want to do or that we want to do. But I got a fluoride scholarship to CAC to go rodeo, and Trevor was living down there at the time, and so that's kind of how we met. And it was a few years after we met that we got together, but yeah.
I grew up on a ranch right here, and my dad had a pack of hounds, and he rode a lot of mules. Like, we were no horsemanship to us whatsoever. They were purely transportation. And it wasn't like there was mules, and I didn't ride a mare until I was probably 16, 17 years old. It was mules and geldings, and that was it. And rough country, not terrible wild cattle, but there was a few, and it was gosh, this is tough.
Well, tell them the bell boot story, because that's hilarious.
Well, the first time that I went to town and I got to where I could rope a little bit and maybe go catch a few, and I went to a jackpot in town, and all these horses had splint boots and bell boots on, and at that time I thought that they were all crippled, because the only time we put anything on their legs, there was something wrong with them. I was like, look at all these beat up, crippled suckers. They're all just covered in boots. That we were out there, no electricity, everything was solar or generators, and no mailbox. It was 45 minutes to town. Very, very remote and ranchy, and disconnected from society, I would say.
Huh.
Yeah. But it seems like as soon as you got to town and you got access to all that stuff, it just spiraled from there.
Yeah. So when I learned about, I wanted to rodeo and do that stuff because there wasn't town. And so I really liked riding bucking horses when I was a kid. That's what all my cousins did, was rode bareback horses. So I latched onto that, and that was my only time in town, was school or rodeo. And so I loved it. And all I could think about was getting away from that ranch then. And then it seems like now it's like I'm trying to get back. But
Yeah.
went through the high school rodeo deal. I won state 3 times in the bareback riding, and went to the high school finals 3 times. But after I found out that it's a real job to go rodeo for a living as much as anything else, when it became a job, I kind of lost interest in it and didn't go much further than a little bit of college rodeo. And then I was running a dozer for my dad up there on a mountain, and we were building the highway between Payson and Fountain Hills there, and I was just beating my head off that glass. Like, just being stuck inside that dozer all the time killed me. Mike Kevel had cut his finger off, and he was needing to hire somebody, and I had finished his book not that long before that, and surely since he cut his finger off, maybe he'll need some help. And I called him, and he said, "When can you start?" And I quit my dad that day on that dozer and went to work for him the next Monday. And that's kind of how I got introduced to horsemanship in general.
And that's how you know cowboys aren't worried about money, because he was making really good money in a dozer and decided to quit that day and ride colts.
Yeah, from like $800 a week to making $12 a ride or something. I think.
Oh my, to
Living
$800 a
in
month.
Fifth Wheel in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was neat though. Like, when that was the first set of colts I ever saw get started that wasn't a bronc ride. And I don't know if you've heard of Mike Kevel, but he's got a book. He has a colt starting book in the Western Horseman book line or whatever. He's a very neat guy. He helped write the rule book for the Road to the Horse, and he's still a really good friend. We talk to him all the time, and when we brand up for Dad and stuff, he comes and helps. And he's a very, very neat individual. Probably be a good guest for you to have on the podcast.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
So after you went to work for him, what kind of happened from there as far as your training aspect?
I think I was like every kid, like after 2 or 3 months, I figured I had it all figured out. And yeah, I was starting to get a handful of outside horses because I had a ton of connections just from rodeo. And like, I knew lots of people in different aspects of it. I had lots of friends that roped and cowboyed. And once they heard who I was working for, I started getting several outside horses away from him, but I didn't know how much I didn't know. So I worked for him for, I think, 9 months to a year. And I was ready to go out on my own and start my own deal. And I wasn't ready. I think I was ready for all the lessons that I started to learn right then. I think I was 21 or so. And all of a sudden I've got 8 or 10 horses to ride and all these people with expectations, and I've got to take care of them. And my customer service was terrible, and my deadlines, and it wasn't a big deal for me to go rodeo for 4 or 5 days, and then it's like, oh crap, now I got to make all this time up, and I wasn't charging enough. I was probably making $400 a month, including me feeding them and all these things. Like, it was a terrible business model, so I didn't do that well. So I had it in my head, it's like, well, you can't make money doing this either. And so the whole time I'm looking for a job of some kind. I went and looked at a job as exporting alfalfa. I looked at different ranch jobs. I worked at the sale barn, all these different things, thinking that I couldn't make money riding colts. And I always started colts for a little extra cash, but it was years later until it was like, this is my job. This is what I'm going to do for a living, and I can actually make a living doing it.
Mm.
And I got there at that place where we worked. It was Sean Grant trained out of there too. And he kind of gave me a little bit of an idea that you could make some money doing it. And I mean, he was selling $60,000, $70,000 rope horses when you could buy a really good one for 20. And there was guys pulling in there in convertibles and trying horses and shipping them out. That was a really neat experience. So after leaving Mike's, I kind of thought about Sean's for several years. And then a few years later, like right after we got together, I said, I'm going to go to work for Sean and learn about selling horses and things like that. And we learned some there. I mean, we learned a lot about roping and taking care of them, but just barely scratched the surface at the same time. It takes years to figure this stuff out. And I think I was too stupid to see that there was more to learn every time. I was like, oh, yep, got it now. I got it figured out. Maybe I'll just go do it by myself. And then we go out into the world and get our ass kicked a little bit and figured out that we don't know that much. And we continue to do that every 6 months up till now. So.
It's true. You think that you've got it all figured out and you know exactly what you're going to do, and then they throw a Hail Mary at you. But, yeah. But so when Trevor was working for Sean, I was working for Sean's wife, at the chiropractor's office, and we were living in Cave Creek, renting a house for way too much with 4 roommates, and we were barely paying the rent and had all these horses, and it was hard. It was rough, but we learned a lot. And I think once we got through that spot, we both were kind of like, I think we can do anything as long as we do it together. So whatever we decide that is, I don't care if we own a car wash or a laundromat or whatever it is, we're going to do it together, and we'll figure it out one way or the other. And we did this 2 or 3 different times, that we'd quit training horses and go work on a ranch and take care of some cows. And once the romantic part of that was over, we'd come back and start riding horses again. And so it felt like we were kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out for a really long time, just trying to figure out what we wanted to do and what was going to pay our bills. And then after we got married, we were working up for Trevor's dad on the ranch. And again, we were like, we want more. You know, we know we're meant for more than just taking care of somebody else's cows, and nothing against those people. It's just, it's really hard, you know, when you're not making any money. And so we ended up in Morristown, working for Wade and Kendall Tibbetts, flag and ropings, and I was working at the bar, and we were kind of just hustling everywhere. Well, before you know it, we're leasing a barn just for our horses, and Trevor's flagging at the ropings, and pretty soon, one horse after another, hey, can you ride a horse for me? Hey, can you ride a horse for me? Well, before you knew it, that barn was full of outside horses, and we bought our first squeeze of hay. And it was gut-wrenching to pay $700 for a squeeze of hay. It was so hard for me to understand, because that was the first time that I felt like we had all the overhead. We had to pay for the stalls. We had to clean the stalls or hire somebody, which we weren't going to do at that point. So I was cleaning all the stalls, bathing all the horses. And well, then COVID was about to hit. They were kind of predicting that these ropings weren't going to happen anymore, and the whole world's coming to an end. And so we decided we were going to move back to Sunflower. We were going to rent that house from his dad, the ranch house, and we were going to just go throw some pens up and keep riding horses. And a couple horses did go home. They were scared of COVID and all that stuff too.
I think at the time, like, I was scared. Well, let's just go hide out at Dad's. And I bet you everybody, like, we had one customer that had investments in tons of different things. And he's like, well, hey, I got to pull these horses out. This is kind of a scary deal for us. It's like, well, my dad had talked to somebody that's needed an arena built. And that was like a $5,000-$6,000 gig for me to go weld up and put up this arena. So, well, perfect. At least we have that guarantee, and then housing's going to be relatively cheap there with my old man, and this is probably going to all be over, and we'll just see what happens. We'll try to ride out the storm. And then I think one customer showed up with 6, and another showed up with 2, and it's like, well, I guess we'll ride them as long as they'll keep paying, and they just never quit. And then we just kept growing and growing, and what we had, I think, what I'd learned from the last time when I tried to ride horses for the public is like how important customer service was and taking care of people. And it was more of an experience with us than it was how handy I was. And I think that's kind of carried us. And I said it back then, and I still kind of continue to say it, what I lack in talent, we make up for in customer service. And that's kind of carried us through. It
does. And it works, because when you pull into Sunflower, which is in the middle of nowhere, like he said, but there's a pond, there's mountain views all around. It's quiet. There's not a town. There's this really pretty arena and trees. But we had panel pens in the arena, and I was hand watering all the buckets, and there wasn't cover on them. And but they didn't even look at that. They just looked past all that, looked at the views, and thought,
look how pretty that pond is.
Yeah.
And they never saw how terrible our facility was. Like it was terrible.
It was. But the fact that it was really pretty there, and they had a good experience, and it carried through and we were there for 2 years, and we did a lot there, and we were charging like $750 a month with because we had no overhead. We were just kind of living by the seat of our pants. All we had to do was feed them, take care of them. So that was easy. And we had some pasture and stuff like that. But then we got to the point where there was some nicer horses coming in, and our pens just were not equipped to hold a $50,000 horse. We needed to upgrade. So we leased a place in Scottsdale for a minute, and then realized how extremely expensive that is when you go from $50,000 in your account to $5,000 in your account because of your overhead. It's like, well, this isn't a good business model either.
Yeah.
So we found a place in Camp Verde that was more affordable, had more grass, had a really nice house, and then there was an extra house on it that we would rent out or Airbnb, and so we had just a few revenues of income coming just off of the property, and that worked really well for a couple years, and we still miss Camp Verde a lot, but
it taught us everything that we needed to know as far as taking care of customers, taking care of the horses. That's where we learned everything that has got us to here.
All the details that I think everybody forgets about, because I overheard some girls that were working for a trainer, and they were like, well, if there's 40 horses here and they're charging $1,500 a month, those guys are making bank. And it's absolutely not the case with the overhead. And we learned that big time between Scottsdale and Camp Verde of just the fuel that goes in the tractor and the fuel that goes in the side-by-sides and the hay that goes to the cattle and fixing of the stalls, fixing of the waters.
Dealing with employees and them tearing up your stuff and just all the things. Like, it was a big old crew there. We tried to run it like a ranch crew, and we fed everybody every morning and at lunch and dinner. And all these kids that have nowhere better to be, they're just out there hanging out with us, and they're pretty hard on stuff. And we learned a ton just about handling people. And
yeah, it was overwhelming, just learning all of that and being so deep into it. And we were kind of I don't want to say burnt out, but we were getting burnt out. It was just one thing after another. Side by side was broke down, the feed buggy was broke down, all that stuff. And then Trevor's good friend Jake said, what about coming to work for Chloe down here in Scottsdale and training her horses? And we were like, oh, we don't want to go work for some millionaire in Scottsdale. I'm sure that's just a great time. And then we came down here and we met Chloe and Lorenzo, and complete opposite of what we were expecting. That just down to earth people that really care. And so we moved down here, and we get to run this facility as our own while taking care of her horses and riding her horses. And we have great help that I don't have to clean stalls anymore. Praise the Lord, because that was killing me. And we've got a really nice setup with a covered arena and good pens.
First class facility. Like, it makes it so much easier to take care of their horses when they're in a good place, and they're not getting barked up by their neighbor or rubbing their mane out. I mean, sometimes they do, but it's a good place where they're not kicking through the fence or getting cast or having any sort of those problems. And we've got good arenas with good ground and good cow pens. Like, it's a cow horse facility, and it's been really neat to be here. Yeah.
So I think all those hard years of learning the lessons and figuring out how to make it work and doing all that stuff, I think we just figured out that if you just keep doing the right thing, keep trying, that it all pays off in the end, or just as you go, because this place is a huge blessing, and Chloe and Lorenzo are a huge blessing to our program, and we're just really happy to get to this point now. Because a lot of horse trainers do it the other way. They're an assistant for 10 years, and they're living the assistant life and the hard work that comes with that and all the lessons they're learning with that. And we kind of went the other way. We just dove right in and paid our own way and starved a little bit, but
It was way easier for me to go work for free for somebody, and then they'll teach you something, than to be on that $1,000 a month assistant wage and be married to them and being mad at each other and not have to. Oh well, he's not doing enough for me. I can go work for a guy for a week for free, and then when you do that, they're more apt to want to teach you and show you things. I've had tons of people that have just been so cool about, especially in the cow horse side of things, but in all aspects. I mean, I've got some friends that really helped me with the reining, that are reiners, and cutters that have helped me with cutting. It's been so cool being around a bunch of people that are just willing to help you and show you how to do what they do. And I've been able to kind of build my own little style of doing things that fits me more. And I wish I could list everybody, but I can't. I couldn't begin to. There's just been so many guys, especially right here locally, where I can ride over and go down the fence. I go ride with BJ Avila all the time, or Jake Berry, or Brad Barkmeyer. There's just tons of guys around here that are willing to help and be mentors to you. Like if you're willing to try, they're willing to help. That's been a really neat part about just being in a place where we're surrounded by a bunch of good horse trainers. Yeah.
I want to acknowledge what you said there. If you're willing to try, there are so many people in the industry. If they see try in you, so many of them are willing to give you the time of day and whatever they can to help you.
Me included. I mean, if there's people that come ride with me, and if they're trying and willing to do things the way that I do while they're here, I don't care I don't think that the way that I'm doing it's the only way to do it. But if you're willing to try what I'm offering, then I will help you to the end of the earth. But if you just want to come argue about how there's a better way to do it, then you have it your way. You can do it however you want. And I don't think there is one right way to do it. For me, I know there's one right way to go about it, and that's ever changing. And a guy that has a program should probably be that committed to his program. But I really enjoy the learning aspect and seeing different styles of doing things. And I like, if I go ride with somebody and they're giving me a lesson, I'm going to do whatever they say to do, even if I'm finding out it's the wrong thing. Yeah. But there's a ton of guys around here that are willing to help, and then at shows too. Shoot, if they've seen you before, all of a sudden you're best friends, and they'll help get you out of the herd and things like that. It's a neat community, the cow horse community, and just the horse community here in general. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. What I really appreciate too, you rode a colt for us, and we had a conversation about riding the horse that showed up, not making the horse something it's not going to be. And I really, really appreciated that about you. And we love our colt too.
That's good.
Yeah. He's a big, gentle giant.
He is. We were out riding up the mountain around here yesterday. He's hilarious. Yeah. But Brian rides him, actually. I think I've rode him like twice. Brian.
Oh, good.
So, yeah.
Got stole. Awesome. If he's good enough to get stole, he must be pretty good.
I guess, yeah. That's funny. So when you guys were coming along, what were some of the growing pains you had to go through that you didn't think of prior to?
I think the one that's freshest on our mind right now has been employees, because it does, like, you're as good as your crew. Mm-hmm. And I have it in my head that everybody thinks the same way that I do, or see things the same way that I do. And when I learn something from somebody, I just assume that I'm too dumb to have known it before, and all the rest of everybody around me is smart enough. They should already know it. And then I end up frustrated with them not knowing it. But I try really hard to be the boss that I wanted to have. I try to provide a lot of opportunity for whatever our employees want to do, or the goals that they want to reach. And at a certain rate, like, it doesn't matter how good you treat them or how fair you are, or anything like that. At some rate, they're going to leave. And it can be frustrating and almost disheartening how much time you can put into somebody, and then they're just gone. And one day they're a part of the family, and the next day they're on to the next chapter in their life. And that's a really neat thing in one breath, but it's like, okay, here we go. We got to start over. I got to train another one. But I did the same thing to guys when I was young. And I thought I had it all figured out, and away I go. And I missed out on a lot of things. And
you wish you could tell them that. Like, I've been in your position. I know that you want to go look for the next thing, or I know you think that you've got it figured out, but just stay hooked, stay longer. But they're gonna leave. They're gonna move on. And sometimes it's good. Sometimes they're ready and they need to go work for someone else. But it is hard. putting ourselves in the position of the employer instead of the employee, you see it completely different. That I don't think we foresaw that coming. That was that, and it's been an ongoing growing pain. It's
Sure.
something that we're finally accepting with employees. Employees are one of the hardest parts.
And then not being offended by it. We were dumb when we were kids and we made mistakes too. And it used to, like when our first handful of employees, it really offended us when they wanted to leave or they weren't paying attention or taking care of things the way that we thought they should be taken care of. It was, it's funny to think that we were surprised. Now I don't think anything can surprise us. It's like, oh, okay, well, there goes another one.
Yeah.
And Kaylie does such a good job taking care of them. She treats them like they're our kids, and they eat with us. They spend every day, like when we go to town or any of that stuff, everybody's all together all the time. And I love that family atmosphere. So it is tough when they leave for us. And what else did we learn? Getting paid.
That was a growing pain. Asking people for money is hard, even though you're working for it.
Yeah, even though you earned it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a hard deal to figure out on how to make sure you get paid without being that person that's like, so do you think you could pay us the last 2 months that you owe us? But I guess, yeah, just running the business side of it in general, like insurance and all that stuff, you're doing so much more than just training and riding someone else's horse. There's so much business side of it, like employees falls into that category, that I think that was a growing pain for us, like just trying to learn how to run a business and then it be a horse business on top of it, so no one really understands that side of it. And there's more stuff coming out to help people like us. I switched from QuickBooks to this app called Ambrook, and it's an invoicing app, and it tracks all your stuff the same way QuickBooks does, but it is tailored to like agriculture and horses. And so it is getting easier, but in the beginning that was a tough one to learn.
And I totally put it on Kaylie, and it's been a good thing, because I don't know when somebody shows up to get their horse, I don't know if they owe me any money or not. And so I get to just be happy to see them, and yep, this is how things are going. And we've had such good luck with our customers. We've never had anybody just not pay us when we asked. Everybody's been pretty good at staying up to date. We've never had to put a lock on a stall or had any sort of lawsuits or anything like that. We've been super blessed with good customers, but I think it's also because we take the time that they need. If I'm riding, or if I take the time to call you, I'll spend an hour visiting with you about life, just in general. And I think that helps us out tremendously, just because you're more apt to pay somebody that you have a relationship with than some guy that has your horse in training that never talks to you. And so I try really hard to, because they are feeding my family. They're paying for my lifestyle. My gate's always open. You can always pull in here. We don't have anything to hide. I'm never gonna train in a manner that I wouldn't allow you to watch. I don't have any sort of behind the barn program. I want everybody to pull in and see their horse and know that it's okay. And like being good about, it's time consuming. So when they do pull in here, it is a little bit of it holds up your day in one respect, but it's just so much better because you get paid. Us making sure that we get plenty of videos out kind of keeps people at a distance where they're not as concerned that maybe their horses aren't getting rode or aren't getting taken care of. So that communication on that aspect kind of frees us up a little bit. But I for example, Darian Morgan, I rode horses for her off and on forever. And I always take the time to visit with her, and it's almost never about her horse, and we've got to be kind of buddies, but the last 2 sentences of our conversation is maybe about the horse, but the whole conversation up to that is, what are you doing? What are you thinking? How's this going? And so she kind of helped me learn that, I would say, because she made it, her demeanor towards me and what I had going on improved tremendously the more time I took to visit with her. And tons of my friends, I've watched them fail. I think on that aspect alone, it's not that you're not good enough or not taking good enough care of their horse. It's just your customer service and your communication with them it's lacking.
Building, that could be part of the growing pain, though, is just learning to build your client's trust in that I'm going to do a good job. I'm going to answer the phone. I'm going to call you back. I'm going to do all the things that is beyond just training your horse and sending home a nice horse that you are happy with, that they're happy all the way through the process.
Yeah. I feel like from a client's point of view too, that makes the client feel appreciated for doing business with you, right? Because like, you know, it's our hard-earned money. Like obviously it's a whole cycle, but just feeling appreciated in doing business, because I feel like there are a lot of trainers that it's just like, you don't get that, or not even trainers, but just a lot of people in the industry or in business as a whole. You just are like, well, man, I feel like I just blew my money, rather than like being happy with where you spent your money too.
Because it is an investment for you guys. And so understanding that every dollar that you pay to somebody is worth it more than just, oh, here's your nice horse when you're done, or here's what I could do. This is what I got done. There's so much more to it than that. And that was a big learning lesson on just creating relationships with your clients, because a lot of horse trainers or people in the industry don't want to take the time to do that. And that's why they train horses. And they say that they're like, well, I don't want to deal with people. I want to deal with horses. And they come hand in hand because those people own those horses. And so that was something that you really have to set aside the time to be trustworthy and communicate, and it goes so much further than just making a nice horse.
Absolutely. So many of these guys, it's like that. I've seen tons of guys that do a good job but fail because it's them versus the client instead of everybody working together towards a common goal. And we could beat that to death, but yeah.
I thought it was so neat when you guys sent our colt home. You know, somebody picked him up and brought him to Colorado for us, so we didn't see you per se, but like I really appreciated the little gift bag, like the hat and everything. Like it was just so, it just as a client just felt so like I was appreciated too. You know, like I greatly appreciated everything you did for our colt, but in the end, like, and you don't get that a lot. It's, you know, a lot of times it's like, well, pick your horse up, here you go. It either is good or it's not, or, you know, whatever, but bye. And like, there was never, I just really genuinely appreciated that too. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, Ben, look what they gave us. That's so sweet.
And I think that's where you can take away from the little things that most businesses do. And it's as much as like writing a little note on your coffee. When they go get your coffee, you're like, oh, that was a sweet little note. And you're more likely to go back and give them a tip or support them. And that was something that I had to learn early on. Like, well, man, I fed your horse, we trained him, we did all this stuff, and but no, it's got to be beyond their expectations. They should they should be so happy in all the ways through the entire process. At the end, like, here's a halter, here's a hat, I will do anything that I can to help you. If your horse needs to get hauled, like, we can figure this out. If it needs to stay an extra 2 weeks until you get here, no big deal. All that stuff. Like, and my most recent one is just ordering their supplements for them so they don't have to bring them to me if they don't have time. Just don't worry, I'll put it on the Chewy order. It'll get delivered. I'll make sure that they get it. And I'm not going to charge you extra for that. That is just part of our program. And that's part of obviously they pay for the supplements, but I'm not going to charge them extra to give them that supplement. If that's what it takes to be at the price that we're at every month so that I can do the most and not feel like I'm getting taken advantage of, then we'll go the extra mile. It's worth it.
And I think a lot of guys put themselves in a bind with that, where they charge less and then they try to nickel and dime those things like worming or like feeding supplements. So that, well, that's an upcharge. That's an upcharge. That's an upcharge. And it's like, for what some people is basic care, all of a sudden they have a bunch of these upcharges where it's like, well, we'll just charge more and we'll do the most. And then and you've got a flat rate to pay us, and it's not necessarily fair across the barn, but everybody's paying the same amount. And if your horse needs a little extra help, we're here for you, you know? And so and if I leave and go to a show for 2 weeks, like, I'm going to charge you board, and I will catch up on what I owe you, or I will make it right. Wherever I'm lacking, I'm going to make it right, because you guys are feeding us. You're feeding the family. You're feeding the whole dream that we are chasing. So it's like, I'm going to do, even if it's one colt, it doesn't matter.
You chose us. right? Like when the client, there's hundreds of horse trainers within 100 miles of here, and they could have picked anybody, and they picked us. And so I want to make sure that when they leave us, they're really glad that they picked us, and they want to come back, and they, hey, send your horse to those guys. They are going to do the most. And that alone is worth all the extra work and effort that it takes.
Yeah. No, it goes a long ways. For sure. I really appreciate it.
I agree.
No, I was going to wear my hat today, but it's dirty.
Oh,
we'll send you another one.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Trevor.
Just my next thought was just that not everybody has left happy. Like, I don't want to sit here and pretend that everybody's been thrilled with what happened. There's been things that have happened that we wish wouldn't have, but as long as somebody's willing to work with us, we want to make everything right that we can.
Yeah.
Can't be perfect all the time, and mistakes are going to be made. They're obviously horses. Things are going to happen, but we've learned a lot with some of those bad experiences on certain clients and what they require, and how to just do things different and do things better. If they ever do get cast, or if they ever do start to colic, or if they do have ulcers, and catching that stuff beforehand, and making sure that they're just taken care of. And that was probably one of the bigger lessons too, was learning how to take care of this many horses and all the individual things that they need. And now I feel like our program's the best it's ever been as far as care too. Customer service, but care as well, like making sure that they get what they need.
Yeah. Well, in business, and especially when you're dealing with horses, it can't be perfect all the time, but just, being willing to work with your clients, or even learning from a situation to move forward. That's about all you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when you guys were coming through here, was there ever a moment where you were like, this is not going to work? Or
About
were
every
you
other week. Every other week.
It makes you question your life constantly. It's unlike anything else, and there are days where you wonder if it's all worth it, and how are we going to do this forever? And especially, like, we've had some really good days the last year and a half. Like, there's been very few days that we're thinking we want out, or we got to do something different, or this isn't going to work. But at the end, I would say at the beginning of every month, like when people pay their bill, you're like, okay, this is going to be okay. But there are some days where you wonder if you're doing the right thing.
I think in the most that I felt on that, pertaining to that question, is with the showing, especially early on, because you've got yourself convinced that if I don't go do well, then I'll never get the horses that I need to do well. And so you're trying to make maybe less or subpar horses better than they are. And at a certain point, at least for me, what I've learned is just, we're going to go make the run that we're going to make today. I've done all my homework. I've done everything I can do. And the loss isn't the end of the world. I've never had somebody, we've made mistakes showing, and I've never had somebody say, well, I'm going to take that horse because you did a bad job. And then I've had some times where I've done really well and I've won, and it's not like your phone's just ringing off the hook the next day. And I think early on stepping into the showing, that's what you think is going to happen. You're going to go win and do well at this one show, and all of a sudden your barn's going to be full, and that's not the case. And it's this feast or famine mentality, because at the same time you think if it goes bad, or if your horse misses a lead change, or you don't do well, that every horse is going to flood out of your barn, and it's never the case. And that's what's been so neat with Chloe, is we had a few to show, but not necessarily the quality that we have now. Like, we have some own sons and daughters instead. Before, we were showing grandsons and granddaughters of some of these good horses, and now that we have some own sons and daughters, it's like, oh yeah, we are competitive, and it's not a hard thing to do. Compared to a day on the ranch, this is nothing. We're going to go lope a few circles and we're going to turn a cow on the fence. It's not that big a deal. We're not going to die if we don't win. It's just when you figure out, hey, let's just go show this horse for what he is and try to enjoy it. Learning that is what changed showing for me tremendously. And like, I didn't know that until Chloe and Lorenzo provided the horses where I could go show over and over again and figure out you're not going to die in there. And it's been a neat deal.
Yeah.
That is a really good point, especially for younger or newer trainers, because there is a lot of pressure. Like you said, you feel like you have to go prove yourself. I mean, to a point you kind of do. Like people are you have to do something that people want to send you horses for.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
That's in the long game. It's not in this show. It's what you're going to do over the next 5 years, I think, that is what's going to prove over time that people should send you a horse. Mm-hmm. And that's the more horses that I get to ride or show, and not that I have a ton that I get to show. I have our trailer full that we take, and that's plenty for me. If we get more, great. But if we stay where we're at, it makes the shows more enjoyable for us. And every one of them's a winner, and that's such a neat feeling to not have one in there that you're like, man, I wish I didn't have to show this one today. But like our string of show horses has got to be pretty neat, and it's got super enjoyable to go show them. The pressure's off as far as I got to do all this extra work to make it happen. We're kind of to a place where we go lope them around and go show them, and it's super fun. Yeah. I took myself off on a tangent there, but I didn't realize, I think something that I learned along the way is that I didn't realize how much work goes into getting to be good at something. Like my rodeo career was completely based off a little bit of natural talent that I had. And then once it became work, I was like, oh, I'm out. And if I had put as much into that as I have the cow horse, it would have been I'd been a totally different person by now. And thank God I'm not. But it's the long game of just doing what you can with what you've got every day and show up. And my slogan in the back of my mind is do it again. You rode them all today. Great. Do it again. You paid all your bills this month. Great. Do it again. I did a good job showing this horse. Great. Do it again. And it can seem kind of monotonous, at least for me, because I'm wanting this big, wow, look what happened. And it's not like that. It's just a slow race of showing up every day and doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
So we have that thought less and less of, are we doing the right thing? Or I don't know if I can do this anymore. Or we have that thought less and less just because of all the lessons that we've learned and how we're applying it to our program now. Everything is just getting so much easier, just knowing that the work is constant, the horses are constant, and we wouldn't want to do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
And you decide this is what you're doing, and you make it enjoyable, even on the bad days. It's better than anything else we could have picked, because we pretty much picked everything else we could possibly do, and we didn't like any of those things either. So this has been the best scenario.
I don't even remember a bad day. I mean, I know that there's been some tough days and there's been some tough conversations, but I can't remember a bad day. To me, like the history's all been good, and it's all been a learning experience. And Clark Weaver lives down the road, and when he texts me if I'm gone at a horse show and he's wanting to know how it went, he texts me, he says, are you winning or are you learning? And that's became a big part of our life too. Because if you didn't win, hell yeah, you learned something.
Yeah.
And if you won, it's almost disappointing because you didn't get to learn what you maybe needed to learn. And
yeah.
Chloe providing that. It's like, here, I'll pay for you to go show another one. I'll pay for you to go show another one. And that's how you learn to show. And then learning that in the show pen has changed how I do everything in life. Is just keep doing it, give yourself some grace, and see where you end up. You're bound to get better. It's just reps of no matter what you're doing, whether it's riding these 2-year-olds or whatever, the reps of doing it are going to make you better. And
if you're trying,
we're not overloaded with talent. We just don't have much quit. We keep showing up.
Yeah. That goes a long ways. I don't agree with the fact that you don't have that much talent. I think you guys do, obviously. But the no quit goes a very long ways too.
Yeah.
For sure.
What I think is neat too about your program, what you kind of were just walking us through, like what you said about showing, like one show's not going to make or break you, but your customer relationships with every client is keeping your barn full. Like, I think that's a cool way to look at it, is like, yes, you want to go show, that is the goal, but keeping a barn full by keeping good relationships, kind of like shifting your priority than you maybe would think of a trainer's priorities to be, is really neat.
Absolutely. I think so many of these guys, I think they get caught up in being the best guy that there is. And like, I'm sure that is really cool to be a Chris Dawson or Nick Dowers. Like, I don't know exactly what it feels like, but I'm sure that is neat. But I think they're all chasing that so hard that everything else in their business kind of gets put to the wayside. And all these other horses that maybe aren't going to make it, they become trash because they're not going to take them to that goal. And my goal is to enjoy every day. And I mean, I get to ride all day, every day. Like, so there's a lot of times where I'm riding back to the barn and I'm kind of surprised that this is what I do for a living. It's like, I can't believe that this is what I get to do. And yeah, I would like to win and I want to be the greatest guy there. Or I don't know that I want to be the greatest, because sometimes seeing those guys working their asses off at the show doesn't look that fun. I've got a super laid back, more enjoyable show than they do. I mean, Chris and Sarah Dawson, you don't find them at their stalls. I got stalled next to them in Vegas. They were never at their stalls. You only found them in the arena, and that was all day and all night. It doesn't matter if you're there at 2 a.m. or 9 o'clock at night. They're in the arena riding.
And they crave it, and that's what and that's their goals, and that's what they want to go do. And they're being very successful, but we've just, after seeing that, we've decided that that's not exactly what we want, but we still like being there and we still like being a part of it, and we learn a lot every time we go. But our goals have shifted into just enjoying our day, enjoying these horses, and get to go show and have fun while we show, and
not be mad at one when he's not a world-class futurity horse, or he is what he is. And if we're going to show him and he's a 70 horse, we're going to go show him like he's a 70 horse. And then if he's just going to go on a trail ride somewhere, then we're not mad at him for that. You know, that's the horse that we've got. That's what God provided us with. So we're going to go ride him for that and send home happy horses. I want to show happy horses and I want to send happy horses home. That's the most important thing to me, more so than winning. Because even in the lower levels, unless you're in the open, you're not going to win a ton of money anyways. The level 1 or the limited and the intermediate, you maybe start making a little bit more money. But you can't win enough to change your life. But a happy horse sure can change your life. And when they're burnt out on the show deal or they're burnt out on the training and you try to send them somebody else, nobody's going to pay for that. Nobody wants to buy that or be a part of that. So, but a happy horse, they'll pay for one. And that's what we're trying to build on all fronts.
Yeah. We had that conversation when I brought you the colt we had. We know he's not going to be a Snafflebit Futurity champion. We never wanted him to be a Snafflebit Futurity champion. We wanted a gentle, I mean, he's 2 also. Like, we want ideally a gentle head horse. That's what our end goal, hopefully. But we want him to just be able to ride around and not be a big fight constantly. And I appreciated having that conversation with you. And you're like, okay, cool. Like, that's what we're riding at then. And it was like, cool. Like, I know nobody's forcing this colt that's lazy and whatever to try to be something he's not.
Yeah. Riding the horse for who he is or who they are and meeting them where they're at is been life altering.
Well, how many times in your life has somebody tried to make you something that you're not? You know, whether that was your parents or whatever. And then like your first reaction is to be abrasive or lean into that. Like, that's since I was a little kid, I was always a don't tell me what to do. But it's funny that I still remember this. Is like I was welding grousers on a dozer. Those are what grips on the track, and they wear down. And my dad never said anything like good job ever. It was, if he's not yelling at you, you're doing good. And he come walking by and he's like, man, those welds look pretty good. Well, all of a sudden I love welding. And it's like, I try to ride kind of the same way. Hey, you know, you're not doing it like that horse, but horses don't compare themselves. Yeah. It's like, hey, that's pretty good. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, pretty soon they go to hunting that and they think they're training you. It's like, well, all I got to do is just do this and he'll leave me alone. It's like, well, you can teach them to do anything like that. They think they're training you. It's
neat.
Yeah, it's way more fun to do it that way. I watch a lot of guys try to force it, and it just doesn't look that much fun. And I don't. If I have to do that to be great, I don't want to be great.
That is a good point. So on like customer relations and life changing, you guys kind of went through a really big thing here recently where customer relations very much paid off. Just being genuine, I feel like it sounds like from the outside. And, you know, we kind of talked about it before we hit record, how it was kind of a thought of like, man, is doing the right thing going to pay off? And it recently did pay off really good for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that just pouring into these clients that we've had that were really supporting us, and like I said, they just are in a different world than we are. They live a completely different life than we do, and just learning to try to relate to them and understand them and building a relationship with them and trying to figure out what that's all for without being schmoozhy or any of that stuff. Like still being like, I really do care about your problems or what you're trying to accomplish. And for the longest time, it felt like it was just another transaction, another client. Nothing really came of it, but we were still learning how to deal with those people and be on their level as much as you can. And when we were in Big Sky, it really paid off because there was someone there that bought a lot of horses and spent a lot of money and then entrusted us with those horses, and is now a great client and a friend that I did never foresee happening. And all of those lessons all the way up to that point was training me for that exact moment, and it paid off in that moment for however long it's going to last. I don't know, but she's a great client, and I'm happy for all those lessons I learned to be able to be in that moment and have that relationship be built.
And in the moment at the sale, we like after the first horse goes through, in the moment we're walking out with a no sale, and we thought that we totally failed, and Kaylie put a ton of pressure on herself, totally emotional about she ruined the whole thing over just a miscommunication with the auctioneer. And we said we wanted to be close to this number, and we were in our minds close, and they're like, oh, no sale. We're turning around like, no, we'll take that. We're that's good enough for us. We'll take it. And they're like, nah, it's too late. Maybe we can talk to him after the sale. And if that hadn't happened, Kaylie wouldn't have been in the position that she was in and trying to salvage, because in her mind, she just talked this customer into coming to this sale and spending all this money, and we're going to go home with nothing. And she made herself available and tried to solve the problem. And it turned out the way it was, just because if it had turned out the way that we had planned it, it wouldn't have turned out the way it is. And it's way better than what we had planned. 100%.
Yeah.
And not throwing my sucker in the dirt after that happened, because I wanted to, but instead I just tried to be grateful that we were there and keep a good attitude and try to salvage what we could while we were there. And I think having that attitude and being grateful in that moment and that hustle that I had, it just paid off, and it turned out better than if we just sold the horse, for $37,000.
Yeah.
So
it's funny because what you think you want and what God has planned for you are totally different things, and it's in this case so much better than we could have imagined.
Yeah. I think that is a testimony too, to be sure that you are always trying to better yourself and put your best foot forward and do the right things when it's hard, because eventually out of nowhere it will pay off.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And just I get up in the middle of the night just worried, and so I just go walk through the barn, or I go check on things, and that knowing that I have just that instilled in me with all of these clients that trust their horse, I think they know that I'm just going to do the best that I can to make sure that their horses are happy and healthy and safe. And that gave me the confidence to say, yeah, I can take these horses home for you and take care of them. And just all the experience we've gotten up to that point was the confidence was backing me because of all of the experience I've had up to that point. Because if I had that opportunity 5 years ago, I'd have been scared to death that I couldn't do it and not put myself in the position to be, oh yeah, I'll do it, being the yes man. And so just wondering how you get to this point is all the hard work you put in for so many years that you are able to take on these hard things and do it with confidence. So it all happens, but it happens over time. So you just have to stay the course and know that it's going to your time is going to come if you just keep doing the right thing and working hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Well, if you could go back and tell either your younger selves or somebody that was in the same shoes as you some advice, what would it be?
Keep learning, I would say. Like, don't quit learning. Go ride with all those trainers. Go talk to those people, make those phone calls, and create relationships with as many people as you possibly can and learn from them. Because I feel like we wouldn't have half of what we have if we didn't have those people in our corner, because we were trying to stay the course and have all these people behind us, because it does take a whole community of people to make it work. You can't be on your own.
It's impossible to fail if you keep showing up, and it doesn't matter what you do. Like, if you show up every day, whether it's showing or cowboying or whatever, like, even there are days when you feel like the smallest person on the world and that you can't do anything right. But if you show up the next day and you start regaining that confidence, it's in my mind, it's impossible to fail. We've never, our time together has been a steady climb up. It's just always gotten a little bit better and a little bit better, even though maybe in the moment it felt worse, but it's always gotten better. And that's just because we keep showing up. When, like, take your licks or what, your ass whipping that the world's going to give you, and then keep showing up, and pretty soon it's just better than you could ever have imagined. And it happens in small increments, but then you look back, it's like, whoa, do you remember when we lived in a fifth wheel and it was 120 degrees out and had no electricity and no shade or no nothing? And it seemed so terrible in the moment, but at the end of the day, like, it was totally worth it to get us here. I mean, that we survived that. Shitty trucks and terrible trailers and just like everything that got us here. Thank God that they were there to take care of us, because it just slowly gets better just because we kept showing up. And we didn't go into a mountain of debt to do it. I mean, we just kind of chipped away at it a little at a time, and now, like, we have no debt, and we're starting to kind of get ahead and make a living, and that's really cool. I'm really proud that we can do that, and
because we keep showing up.
And we thought we were supposed to be doing it at 25. We thought that at 25 we were supposed to be there, and it wasn't happening overnight like we wanted. It's like, well, okay, 10 years later, it starts to look way better. And 10 years doesn't seem that long when you say it, but in the moment, each individual second where you're panicking, it seems like a long time.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. Good advice. Great advice. Well, do you guys have anything else you want people to hear?
Pretty good jokes lately?
Mm-hmm.
I can never think of a joke on the spot. If anyone asks me, I'm like, I don't ever remember a single joke from my whole life.
Right. And you told me the same one yesterday. I'd still laugh at it today because I didn't remember it.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I don't think so. And I don't know. We're pretty one-track mind, and we'd probably end up just saying the same thing over again. We could probably go through the whole list of everything again. But thank you so much for the opportunity to tell it. And
Yeah.
You're doing a great
I'm
job.
excited. Thank you. You guys are too.
Thanks.
So good job.
Thanks.
Well, if people want to learn more about your program or follow you, where can they find you?
Instagram and Facebook seem to be the most easy access. It's just Haught Horses and Livestock.
And it's spelled Haught.
Yep. So I try to be pretty good about messaging people back, but don't try to call Trevor. He's probably not going to answer, but my phone number is on both of those pages. So, or if you message us, I'll respond. But yeah. So
Very cool.
Yeah. Well,
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you guys for taking the time to chat with me, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks for riding along with me on another episode of Horses, Hope, and Hustle. If you found a little bit of inspiration or grit here today, share it with a friend, leave a review, or tag us on socials. The mission of this show has always been simple: to build a community of genuine horse people, a place to connect, support one another, and help each other succeed. But this isn't just a podcast anymore. It's a place where everyone has a seat at the table, and we want you there. So get on over to horseshopeandhustle.com. If you own an equine business or host events, you can get listed in our directory, where listings start for free. And subscribe to our weekly newsletter, where we highlight businesses, events, and opportunities right here within our community. And remember, keep showing up for what truly matters. Until next time, stay true, stay tough, and keep hustling.